What you see here on the picture is this very romantic movie-like picture of what love is supposed to look like, with balloons, with champagne, two beautiful people hugging, a romantic setting. And unfortunately, this image that is created is completely untrue, and it leads to a lot of disappointment in people's lives. So I bet that all of us, including myself, have been brought up with this image of the ideal love. And this is where a lot of disappointments come from, because we are people. People go to the toilet, people burp sometimes when they live together. They have to deal with their moods, with their imperfections. And this is where a lot of trouble is caused. So the first thing you need to realize is that true love is private. Most of you haven't actually seen what love looks like, unless you've had a really good parent that were able to show you what love is. But most of us were brought with a fake idea of what love is. So we actually, if you think about it, do you have an idea of what love is? And this is something that we need to ask ourselves deeply. So look at your parents. How did they express love? Did they hug? Did they tell each other that they loved each other? Did they show love at all? In lots of families from one generation back and two generations back, it was anywhere around the world, it was not common that people would express their love. So most of us, of course I'm generalizing here, are brought up with a fake image of love in the movie. So you're yearning for something that doesn't really exist, something that involves absolute material satisfaction and absolute romance and plenty of time, which is something that we all don't have. We have limited resources. And in a relationship, we have to deal with these limited resources as well. So the way we have defined love for ourselves internally is, first of all, through this image that we need to completely eradicate, this media image of love, which is making a terrible mix with what our parents are showing us as love, because it creates a distorted image of what is actually true for love. Okay, I'm told that this is the ideal love, but I've actually experienced love through my parents in this way. So you often experience what your parents have experienced, usually your mother if you're a woman and your father if you're a man, but not necessarily. Sometimes the roles are reversed. But you very often experience the patterns that your family has shown you in their couple's life, in the relationships that you've had later on. And maybe it is not exactly the behavior, but it is the belief system. It is the pattern that repeats quite often. For example, if you were brought up in a family where the question of money was often brought up and it was a source of conflict, it is likely that in your grown-up life, you also encounter situations where there's talk and even conflict born by the subject of money. But the moment you consciously realize it and catch yourself in the moment of reacting, not afterwards to regret it, but in the moment of reacting, it's learning to be conscious at the moment, catching yourself. This is when, by training it once, twice, 3 times, when you catch yourself a few times, this creates a habit of recognizing your pattern, and then you start eliminating it and other things start showing in your life. You've passed this test and you can move on with the teaching of life. So let me explain briefly the family constellations method. So the family constellations method assumes that we are all connected energetically. Our family tree is connected. So we are like constellations. We are connected until the beginning of time with our predecessors. But in the method of family constellations, you work with up to 9 generations back. More commonly 4 generations back, but it can go up down to 9 generations back. So what usually happens is that whenever the feeling of love and respect was broken between family members or among family members, there's a void there. There's a gap that has to be filled with something. And it's like a black hole. So if a family member was either lost or disrespected, or let's say there was a first wife that was not treated properly, and then the next family of the husband has children. It may happen that the children of the second wife suffer because the first wife was disrespected. So there are family connections that always have to be treated with respect, even if we're not related anymore with these people. Once we've had a family connection with them, it is created. So the purpose of this method is to restore the family connections that had become a void, that had become a black hole. So for people that were either disrespected or not enough love was given to them. So what usually happens is that if somebody was not treating you well, you start looking for the source of them acting out in a negative way, because the source is usually not in them. It stems maybe in the branch behind them, maybe in their mother and father, maybe it was caused by something else. So the way it is normally done is in a physical setting. So a few people gather together, and each of them is designated a role within this family constellation. For example, Tatiana plays herself in the group. Imagine we are all in a room. I'm just going to explain it quickly so that you know what it is, and then we're going to do an exercise where you can do it on your own. So Tatiana plays a role by herself, and we are in a room. She's in the middle of the room, and I, as a facilitator, ask her to briefly tell me her story and to designate each of you to play a member of her a family member of hers. Usually in the process of Tatiana telling the story, you identify who are the major players within this family constellation. And from this point on, you start tracking where the broken link may be. For those of you who have done the silver method, you know that we all connect in the matrix of alpha state, and it is similar with the constellations. Once you are designated a role, and I say, Anat, now you're not Anat, now you're Tatiana's mother, you automatically assume the energy of Tatiana's mom. You start acting like her, you start carrying yourself like Tatiana's mom, and you start exhibiting the patterns that she does. So it's like as if a ghost comes into you, although nothing like this actually happens, but you just temporarily take on the energy of the family member. And what this does is it actually lets you see what the hidden pattern is, where the problem stems from. So what you do in such a session or in a series of sessions is you try to recover this black hole, or where the energy is being lost. For example, if Tatiana's mom has been hurt in some way in this family relationship, let's say the father was not supportive, we are trying to support the mom through other means. We're giving her more support, let's say from her own parents, because it usually stems from her, back from her family tree. And we're also redirecting the attention of Micah to her, and we are letting them look into each other's eyes and experience the feelings of love and respect. And in this process, these links in the family constellations are corrected. Okay. And then, of course, everybody takes their own identity after this session finishes. So I don't think processes need to be cumbersome, especially now that the development of consciousness has sped up so much that things are meant to happen faster. We are meant to clear up blockages faster. We are meant to realize things faster. We don't need so much time. And so I'm telling you the methodology just so you know how it functions and what the logic is behind. But what you can do now is you can do something on your own. What you do is you draw it. So this part, drawing it. You take a piece of paper and you draw the image of your mom and dad as they were, as you remember them in your family unit when you were a child. And you need to create a contrast. So what you usually do is you create you draw an image where it was not pleasurable to you, or the image that you remember was not so good in your subconsciousness. And what you do in picture 2, which is already the correction of this link, is you draw your parents and yourself, or if you have brothers and sisters, you draw them in a loving relationship as you would have liked them to be, even if it never existed. And in the process of drawing it and, hang it somewhere so that you see it, and you, in the process of visualization, the more you see it, the more you believe it, it influences you unconsciously. So you start believing that love is possible, because this is your deepest block. If you have experienced negative emotions while you were growing up with your parents, because this is your true imprint about love. And another exercise, this is even better, is if you can find real photos of your parents when they were happy, when they looked happy, and put it somewhere close to you so that you observe it when you wake up, before you go to bed, and just have it there and observe it and remember, oh, they actually loved each other. The other thing is, of course, with the drawing. If you can't find the photo, just have the drawing somewhere around you so that you're reminded constantly that this is the new image that you have created of love and respect. Respect is very important. It's not only love follows respect. You cannot have love without respect. And the other thing is the silence vow. It is with most manifestation work, but also with the family constellations method. I know with the groups of family constellations that you're taking a silence vow for 6 months. So you're not supposed to tell anybody of what is happening in your group. So with any manifestation work, it's the same. For example, if we do the silver method together, I'm not going to go around telling exactly what you imagine, right? It stays private within us in the group.